You're tuned to Warsaw. Welcome to High Note Music Magazine. I'm your host Elżbieta Krajewska. A new opera about Warsaw for the 80th anniversary of the start of the Polish capital's post-World War II reconstruction. The Best City in the World, staged at the National Opera, is a musical tribute to the massive effort of raising Warsaw from ruins. Commissioned by the Sinfonia Varsovia Orchestra with support from the City of Warsaw authorities, the opera was composed by Cezary Duchnowski to a libretto by Benjamin Bukowski, based on Grzegorz Piątek's book The Best City in the World, Rebuilding Warsaw 1945-1949. Grzegorz Piątek.
It all started with my book, and writing this book several years ago, I couldn't have imagined that this book would be adapted for the stage, and it's an enormous challenge because it's a non-fiction book with lots of data, with lots of information. It's not a novel, and I'm curious myself how this would translate to the stage.
To an opera, but only a part of your book has become, in the end, inspiration for the opera. Is this the part you would have chosen yourself?
I would have no idea what to choose, to be honest. So I was very happy to take the back seat and let the author of the libretto, Benjamin Bukowski, do his thing. I think he very wisely selected two characters from the book, an architect and a journalist. He expanded these characters, and I think it was also very clever of him to make the choir a communal character out of the choir, because my book has the crowd is the people who live in the city, the group of architects, the group of politicians. It's all about collectives. It's all about the masses in my book. So it was very wise of him to make this choir very important in the adaptation.
We've heard a lot that this is also an opera about success, in fact. If we think about Warsaw, at one point after World War II, there was an idea that it wouldn't be there at all because it was so much destroyed, and here we are.
It is definitely a success story. It took generations to rebuild Warsaw, actually. It was not a matter of the first 5 or 10 post-war years. It was an enormous task, lest we forget that 60 to 70% of the buildings were destroyed. It took Warsaw 30 years to build back its population. But it is a success story, and the title of my book and the title of the opera, The Best City of the World, is, of course, a bit of a stretch. I took it from the propaganda of the first post-war years, but it certainly captures the enthusiasm and the ambition of the first post-war years that the architects had, and this conviction that the tragedy, that the destruction of the city is a blessing in disguise, and it has to be used as an opportunity to create a much better city than before the war.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Stage direction is by Barbara Wiśniewska, with Marcin Cecko behind the dramaturgy. What has the work been like on this extraordinary new opera about Warsaw? Are you from Warsaw at all?
Yes, I am second generation from Warsaw, so my parents were born here. And for me, Warsaw is a topic of theater plays I was working on, and also this opera. I think the city is an amazing topic for this. For me, I feel the history underneath the streets and the sidewalks, because it's like, it's very exceptional. And working on this piece was, of course, very emotional because of this, and we also wanted to make the audience feel these emotions. Of course, the book that this opera is based on, The Best City in the World by Grzegorz Piątek, is a documentary book. It's a reportage. So the opera, it's not this medium that can tell facts and dates and be very precise. So we wanted to paint pictures that invoke somehow this feelings, how it was just after the Second World War, because the timeline of the opera is like we have the first monologue of the architect just before the Second World War. She's dreaming, as the young urbanists in Warsaw were dreaming about making a totally new city. So they had this dream about let's rebuild it from the ground, and for her it's something very painful, because when the war happened, it's like a nightmare that you whispered in your head.
And in fact, not much of Warsaw remained after the war.
Exactly. So her story is that after the Second World War, she's invested in rebuilding it, just because she thought before that maybe this city should be destroyed and rebuilt once more. And then we see people coming from other cities, but also from Praga, from the other side of the river, and we see how they are started to live in the ruins, which is, I think, like a 15-minute huge scene with 150 people on stage. So it's like a really, I think, engaging and somehow also very rare in an opera to see so many people singing but also acting. And the second part is something different in this body of society. It's architects, it's builders, it's politicians. We see the pressure. It's a metaphor, of course, but we see this in the bodies of the people on stage. How politics pressured this topic of rebuilding Warsaw. So we try to make these small capsules of moments of history that for some people will be something completely new for the new generation, but for other people will be something that they can remind themselves about.
Warsaw is a woman in this opera.
Yes, and it's also the story about two women. We have the architect who is inspired by Helena Sirkus and the journalist who is inspired by Anna Louise Strong. These characters are not perfect. They are a little bit broken. Anna Louise Strong was a journalist who was from America, but she was fascinated with the communism. She was meeting with Stalin during the Second World War, and she came with Red Army to Warsaw. And her agenda was to tell the story through the communist lens, how this new political regime will build everything from the ground up. But also the connection, which was written by the librettist. It's not a real connection between architect and this journalist. When they meet, they learn from each other. Architect shows her places in Warsaw like remains of ghetto that are very painful, and she changes her attitude. She changes her optics towards the whole political system, the history, and also the history of Warsaw.
And what about the music? With quite a lot of electronics and, well, you've just spoken of a 150-person choir.
Yes, the music is amazing. Somehow it's very new for us. Before we just listened to these audiations, which are just like a synthesized thing from the partiture. So I'm still like processing the capacity, emotional capacity of this music. It's, of course, it's very contemporary. The electronic is somehow hidden. In some moment it grows, but we hear symphonic music also and beautiful choir. So I think for some people sometimes the loudness of the music may be a little bit difficult, but there are very quiet moments also. So this is a very dynamic piece.
We know that the composer is not from Warsaw, so that does give him a different, perhaps, out view on some things. But did you feel that you saw something new through the music and through work on the opera?
Yes, I think so, because previously my main focus in the theatrical work was Warsaw Uprising, which is a very tragic story. And here we have a reconstructive story. And I also felt that all these people gathered together as producers, institutions, and so on, they wanted to present different kind of myth, the myth that is more positive, that is more constructive. Of course, the times were very difficult, and it's not like a black and white situation, but still what I learned is to look through these positive lenses, to look to see not only the strategy which we have on 365 tables that are built in the walls of the buildings in Warsaw, but also to see how magnificent they are, and that Warsaw is. This is like also a part of a libretto. Warsaw remained somehow. So this is a positive story. This
Warsaw
is the lens is
a success.
Yes, exactly.
Boris Kudlichka has just taken over directorship of the National Opera in Warsaw, and I asked him about the challenge of starting a new season with something of a blockbuster.
Making or preparing pra-premieres, the world pra-premieres, is always a very exciting moment, because we are dealing with something which is not formed, which we can't see yet. The team of our creators doesn't really know fully the music, its colors, its emotions, potential, so they have to use a lot of imagination and be very flexible until the last moment. So especially with the new premieres, there is a lot of excitement, how it will sound, how it will reflect the space, the staging, and the whole idea and the concept that was built some month ago. But for me, it's extremely exciting also to start my first season when I'm taking over the program of the previous general manager, Mr. Waldemar Dąbrowski and Mariusz Strelinski. I'm taking over with the full respect, and my aim is to make from each of the productions to prepare the highest level of an artistic form or artistic result. So on another hand, I can say I'm very happy I'm starting with the new piece, with the new title, which always is, you don't have anything to bounce to. It's a prototype, so we are creating something fully new, which will be a certain vector in the future for other teams who will come back to the same title.
On the other hand, there's a lot of expectations, and I think on the part especially of Varsovians, a lot of emotions, since this is an opera about their city and their history.
It is, and I can see growing interest, and I can see how many people are actually asking if there will be more, first of all, titles or more performances of this title in the future. At the moment, we are doing 5 shows. We are sold out, but we are also planning a VOD transmission that will be screened from December for 2 months, and the audience will be able to see that online. So we will definitely widen the group of people who would be interested in the title. But I think it's a special title for us Warsavians here now that are so interested in our place, in our city, and also to remain, because it is very important to remember about those who had the courage to build the city and had the power, energy and desperation to bring it here where we are in a very successful place, and the place that is colorful, and we are still forming that. We are still part of the whole process, because I'm saying the city is never reached its final shape. It's in a permanent process.
Well, the city in this opera is a woman. And as you said, the city is successful, something which really sometimes needs to be brought to our attention here in Warsaw, because we have a tendency to look at the darker side of things. But this is big. What has been the biggest challenge? The new music, or just the size of the thing?
Usually opera is a larger art form and is using so many elements of like orchestra, chorus, soloists, dancers, multimedia, space, technology. In this case, it's a similar process where we are combining all these elements into each second of emotion on the stage. It has to be very carefully programmed and very carefully built in terms of dramaturgy, in terms of storytelling, that becomes a shape that is convincing and interesting for the audience. And in terms of challenges, it's always with the new music, how to hear it, what is the balance, where is the electronic, is the rhythm on the stage balanced well to the music. And to be honest, until the final opening of the curtain during the opening night, there is always permanent multi-layered process of tuning the final shape.
Is there any part of this work which particularly resonates with you?
This whole title extremely resonates with me, because I'm observing the transformation since last 30 years and seeing how far we went from 1995, when I first time stepped into the city, and I'm extremely proud, and I feel like ambassador everywhere where I am, inviting different people from different corners of the world, and also coming wherever my journey transforms me. I'm extremely proud what happened, how the city found its shape, and how the inhabitants became organic part of it, because this is a huge transformation of acceptation. The acceptation of a place, of a city, of its definition.
Yes, so a city which is success, as you said, and which is a woman, and with a look towards the future, I believe, in this opera as well.
I believe so. I think it's a beautiful metaphor when you say the city is a female, is a hero, is a strong. It's a beautiful metaphor also on a wider transformation of our society. And I fully read this element, and I'm so proud and so happy to observe this when we come into society that is much more respectful, that is society that should learn from the past. I'm optimist, and I'm always thinking in this way to bring us to the better place.
Thank you so much for this interview. Thank you
very much.
In this high note, Best City in the world premiere of an opera about Warsaw for the 80th anniversary of the start of the capital's rebuilding from the destruction of World War II. The opera was conducted by Bassem Akiki, and the two main parts sung by Agata Zubel and Joanna Freschel. Your host in High Note was Elżbieta Krajewska. Thanks for listening and goodbye.